yards for a historic event. When we decide, just like over 100 years ago, the women that worked in the mills and toiled every day decided that they had had enough. And they came together to form a union amongst each other. In 1844, Sarah Bagley, a mill operator, or what they called an operator, who was actually working on the looms, decided that she was entitled to live in dignity. That her sisters also were entitled to have a life of dignity. And not have to slave 13 or 14 hours a day. 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
You come get up to the bell. You go and work in the mill. At 7 the bell rings. You go back and have breakfast. Hurry up! It's time to get back to the mill. When the sun is in the sky and it's noon, you come back and have lunch. Hurry up! It's time to go back. Work in the mill again. Then you get a break for dinner. Then hurry up. It's time to go back again until it's dark. Because the profiteers need to make more money. That you have no rest. That you have no time for an education. Is no concern of theirs. Well, to Sarah Bagley and many of her sisters, it was a concern. In 1854, they came to Manchester. And they formed the Female Labor Reform Association of Manchester. And they worked against the corporate owners of the mills. And they had what they called at that time many turnouts. I'm going to read to you, and I don't need a mic. Just, you can listen to an 11-year-old girl that worked in the mills, and this is her first experience with a turnout in Lowell. My own recollection of their first strike is very vivid. I worked in a lower room where I had heard the proposed strike fully, if not vehemently, discussed. I had been an ardent listener to what was said against this attempt at oppression on the part of the corporation, and naturally I took sides with strikers. When the day came on which the girls were to turn out, those in the upper rooms started first, and so many of them left that our mill was at once shut down. Then when the girls in my room stood irresolute, uncertain what to do, asking each other, would you? Or shall we turn out? And none of them having the courage to lead off, I, who began to think they would never go out, after all their talk, became impatient and started on ahead, saying with childish bravado, I don't care what you do, I am going to turn out, whether anyone else does or not. And I marched out and was followed by the others. My brothers and sisters, that's how a strike starts. It only takes one person to make that move. But when it does, the country will follow. All these mills, all the bricks of these mills, every single one knows the blood and the pain and the toil over 100 years of the workers who made this city and this country strong. And they stand, like was said before in the blessing, they stand and they hear us now. Their souls know and understand our struggle today because it is the same struggle. We go to work and we toil, and we're in credit card debt, we're in student loan debt, we're trapped by debt, owned by banks, owned by multinational corporations. If you have a small business, you have to do everything you can to fight the multinational money powers. It's time for it to stop. Our labor is what empowers the 1%. Our toil every day is what gives them the funds to go on their yachts, what gives them the funds to wage war. We send our brothers and our sisters and our daughters and our sons to fight for their profit. And I'm saying, and we must say, no more.
No more. No more.
We must say, no more punch the clock for profiteers.
No more punch the clock for profiteers.
When we walk out, we have the power with ourselves. I want to read to you one more thing. This is a young lady who wrote in a labor journal that was distributed among many of the young mill workers. And she learned a very poignant lesson about class. And I want to read this to you because it still is poignant today. After 100 years of enlightenment, 100 years of movements and social struggle, we still have not broken down these barriers of economic division and class in this country, and in the world for that matter. So I want to read this to you. In 1849, I was thrown into the society of several young women who were daughters of mill owners. And the contrast between their condition and that of the operatives was so great that it led me to serious reflection on the injustice of society. These girls had an abundance of leisure, could attend school when and where they pleased, were fashionably dressed, were not obliged to work any except where they pleased, and when they pleased. Indeed, they suffered for want of exercise. And while they were so tenderly cared for, lest the winds of heaven should visit their faces too roughly, the operatives toiled on during the summer's heat and the winter's cold, many passing into an early grave in consequence of protracted labor, and many others making themselves invalids for life. For one, I could never see the injustice of one set of girls working all the time in order that another set should live in ease and idleness. Copper says, another activist, I would not have a slave to till my ground, to fan me while I sleep and tremble when I wake, for all the wealth that sinews bought and sold have ever earned. But many of our people in Massachusetts and New Hampshire are quite willing to make fact dividends on the labor of anyone they can hire. Widows and orphans, boys and girls of tender age, and when they cannot obtain American girls, they'll send for across the oceans for new people and allow them just enough to keep them from starvation. My brothers and sisters, we are still there today. The struggle goes on.